Hi, this is Mr. Bernard. In this video, which I'm going to promise is going to be short, I'm going to show you a few little tricks that you can use to make your sketches kind of pop out in 3D without doing anything too tricky or without being an artist. When you're doing design work, it's always nice to have things look like they're 3D, look like they're real. They give you a little bit more of an idea of what it's going to look like when you're done making it. So as you're drawing it, you get a feel for the actual object, and that helps you when you want to evaluate what good ideas are and what bad ideas are. Doing drawings like this is mostly just following a set of rules. If you can draw two parallel lines, 1, 2, you can draw a box. And if you can draw a box, you can draw this table with this curved shape. The rules for drawing this box and the rule for drawing this table are identical. Let's start with just a simple box. So the easiest way to draw a box is draw a rectangle or a square. That's the front of your box. This could be the front of a bookcase. This could be the end of a desk. Right now it's just a rectangle. This is showing one surface. I need to give it depth. To give it depth, start in the corners and go back at an angle. And here's where being able to draw parallel lines is really important. Once you've picked the angle with your first line, you need to make sure that the next line you draw follows that angle. If you do that, you need to erase that line and try again so that they're roughly parallel. When I'm drawing, I find that the eraser is almost as important as the pencil because I make mistakes and have to erase lines frequently. The lines that define the back of the box need to be parallel to the lines that define the front of the box. Again, if you can't draw that line parallel to that line, erase it and try again. That line needs to be parallel to that line. That's a box. Believe it or not, we can use this box as the basis for a table. There's most of a table, but the table legs don't have any thickness. So what do I do there? I just go back to following those rules. There's the front of that table leg. The side of that table leg. And this one's a little tiny bit tricky. There's the side, and we need to show its depth, how far back it goes into the paper with a line there, and that line needs to be parallel to that line, and if it's not, erase it and fix it. If you know you're going to be using a box as a basis or starting point for something more complicated, it's a good idea to do your box lightly. You can probably barely see that in my screen, but there's the top of something. I'm going to put some legs on this and just make another table. The benefit of drawing lightly like that, of course, is that it's easy to erase. This time, instead of putting my table legs in the corners like I did with that one, I'm going to put the table legs set in a little bit. So to do that, I need to figure out where they go through the top. Even if I can't see them from the top, if they were to go through the top, where would that be? So let's just pretend that these boxes represent the top of square table legs. I'm just going to go down from there. That's enough for now. Now what I want to do is I want to draw the floor. So I'm just going to go across. Remember, my floor needs to be parallel to my tabletop because most tables, the tabletop's parallel to the floor. And I'm going to go back. This one's a little tricky because this point here, which looks like it's in the middle of nowhere, is actually directly under that point there. That's the back corner of the table leg you can't see. This table leg needs a side. There. Now let's just make these lines dark. So there's my table. Everything's been made dark, and you can see my table legs are set in from the edge compared to this one where the table legs are set flush. There's nothing wrong with this, it's just these are two different tables. I can use shading, it would help a lot too. The easiest way to do shading is just picture a light source. I'll picture the light source kind of up here, shining down on my table, and everything on the opposite side of the table from the light is going to get shaded. Now, of course, these legs here, the light's going to hit this thing and kind of come down here. This whole leg is going to be in the shade, and most of this leg is going to be in the shade too. That looks a little bit nicer. Last thing I want to show you is drawing curved surfaces. When you're beginning to draw curved surfaces using this technique, the best thing to do is draw a box around the curve. And then you can use that box. It's kind of like a holder of the curve. And then I can shade it. I'm going to do a curved surface for a table because the assignment was to draw tables or desks. So here's my tabletop. But I want to cut the top on a curve, something a little bit more interesting than just a rectangle. So what I can do is I can just draw the curve on here that I want. The bottom of that edge is just going to go pretty much parallel to that one. That actually could make a pretty cool desktop right there. You could put maybe a shelf here. Maybe I make my shelf so it's got a curved surface too. And then I need some legs on it. And you can just do the same thing I did for this one. I'm going to put a leg here, a leg there, a leg here, and a leg there. And then just go straight down from those points. Nice and light because I don't want to have to erase them. Of course, the legs aren't sticking through the top, so the legs happen down here. Again, this line, which shows the bottom of that leg, goes parallel to the floor or parallel to the top, which is that line or that line. And then it looks like my legs are all the same length. A little shading will go a long way on this one too. And there's an idea for a desk with a shelf on it. You can draw. You just maybe don't know how to. Practice is going to make you better. The rules for doing this, again, were to draw the front view of the thing. If it's a square, just draw a square. If it's a rectangle, just draw a rectangle. And then show depth by going up from one corner, and I always pick, I don't know why, but I always pick the top right hand corner and start with that one. And all the other lines that show depth need to be parallel. If you remember those rules, you'll be able to draw shapes like this also.